Today, Sunita Narain joins us in our series, The World After Coronavirus. Sunita is at the Center for Science and Environment in New Delhi, India, and also the editor of the journal Down to Earth. And we're going to ask her what she thinks is the future of global cooperation.
I think there are important lessons from what we are seeing today. One, it's very clear when you look at the current crisis that the world is interdependent. And the second thing that comes out very clearly is that the world is as strong as its weakest link. And the fact of the matter is that if the virus remains in any part of the world, any region of the world, it will stay with us. And the third thing that comes out in the current crisis is just the sheer pathetic lack of leadership, global leadership. But also our institutions are failing us. The Security Council couldn't even meet. And even when it met, it's just been a whimper. There's nothing. I hear lot of voices now talking about the death of the UN because COVID shows us that it's a dog-eat-dog world and it's best that each country works on its own. But the fact is that when it comes to COVID, when it comes to climate change, the fundamental weakness is a lack of global cooperation. And that to me is very critical in yesterday's world, today's COVID world, and tomorrow's post-COVID world.
What does a dog-eat-dog world, a world with the death of multilateralism, what might it mean for a thing like climate change, for example?
People would like to say today, let's then, just write off the UN. Let's write off WHO. Let's write off the UNFCCC. Let's basically come back to the drawing board and do bilateral deals between countries. And that's the future of climate change. I don't think, and I know that is not going to work. And the rich countries have to understand post-COVID how vulnerable they are. And that is something that COVID has brought out very clearly. Something that we have all been saying in climate change, that climate change is a great leveler. COVID shows us what that levelized world looks like.
Do you think the world has learned that lesson from COVID, of cooperation, of not leaving the vulnerable behind, of inclusiveness? Or is the lesson that the world is learning today with COVID more about closing down, closing borders, hunkering in, thinking about oneself?
It's a brilliant question. And frankly, it's too early to say. Today, nobody has the mind space to talk about what that future is going to be. But that is why this conversation is important. That is why I'm glad you're doing these, because this is also the only time when we must talk about what that future path can look like. We can go anyway. We can go the way of saying post-COVID, we want our economies to be even more aggressively extractive. Or we can say no. We have another global pandemic, global planetary emergency looming. And can we use this opportunity? Can we learn from this to actually fix the way for the future? Can we actually think about a more multilateral world? And I think that's the big question, Adil, and I think it's so well put right now, is what will we do? Will we do it differently, recognizing that COVID is the revenge of nature? Okay? It's in some way a reminder to us of our arrogance, our sheer arrogance to think that we could do what we wanted.
What would you want the world leaders and negotiators to be doing when they meet again for the next round of climate negotiations, for example?
We have a financial stimulus that each country is giving, and it's massive. Is there any way that this fund can be used for a low carbon future as well? And think about how can they build that cooperative climate agreement? You and I have been discussing this for the past 20 odd years, okay? And I still believe that's the only way to move ahead. It is no other way. But the fact is we have run out of time. Therefore, all countries need to do things differently starting today. And I think post-COVID, I think the only one thing I would expect is that we could sit in a room and actually talk to each other. Till now, we've had a dialogue of the deaf and the dumb because we talk down to each other. If we could actually use COVID to actually, for once, say, listen, we are all in this together. And that's what COVID has told us.